Sitz! Ruhig.
Euthanize it. Now. The order snaps across the parking lot like a cold slap, and everyone turns toward the transport crate where a gray and white German shepherd hammers its body into the metal door. Clang, clang. The dog is frothing, eyes blown wide, head tilted up as if danger lives somewhere above the roofline. A bandaged animal control officer grips his clipboard like a shield. A few onlookers mutter, "Monster." A couple of teens lift their phones. And one small figure doesn't move. She is 10 years old, the daughter of a black waitress who just hustled into her evening shift across the street. Her name is Zadie Ellison. She stands very still, palms on an old serving tray her mom handed her to bring dinner home later. She doesn't stare the way the crowd does. She listens. To the metal, to the breath, to the rhythm of fear. This is not a miracle moment. This is a black story about being unseen until the second you decide not to disappear. Clang, clang. The officer flinches. "Put that thing down today," he says again, softer but harder, like he needs the sentence to hold him up. A woman near the curb cuts her eyes at Zadie. "Don't get in the way, sweetheart. We have rules." Zadie tips the tray and taps it with one finger. Ta-ta. Ta-ta. 60 beats a minute. The dog freezes. The head that was scanning the sky settles on the tray. A vet from the doorway breathes, "Wait, what is she doing?" Zadie's voice is barely above the wind. Sitz, ruhig. She keeps her eyes soft and her shoulders angled, the way her grandma taught her years ago watching old working dog tapes. The barking breaks. The metal stops screaming. For the first time, the dog sniffs instead of slams. Nobody here could tame this animal, but this child, the one they did not see, just changed the air. Moments like this make your heart lean forward. Stay with us and tap subscribe so you do not miss what happens next. This is only the beginning. Harborview sits where the bay breathes against the docks, a working town that smells like salt, diesel, and hot metal in summer. On weeknights, the Baylight Diner glows like a steady porch light. Inside, coffee pours by the gallon and the grill hums. Patrice Ellison ties her apron at 5:45 every evening. She is quick on her feet, polite without pretending, and she knows the regulars by the way they fold their menus. People call her dependable. They do not always say respectful things. She lets it slide because rent is due on the 1st and shoes wear out faster than tips come in. Her daughter Zadie rides the Route 12 bus from Mockingbird Elementary and waits at a back booth with homework, a library book, and a dented serving tray her mom gave her to carry leftovers home. Zadie is 10. She keeps her hair in neat braids, her shirt tucked, and her sneakers clean because her grandma used to say, "Tidy is armor when the world does not look up to see you." When customers forget to make eye contact, Zadie still smiles. It is a bright, plain joy that feels older than 10 and younger than everything that has happened. Across the street, the County Animal Center is a low block building with a chain-link side yard. Jared Beaumont runs it the way a former police captain runs anything, with lists and checkoffs and a quiet read of a room. He watches behaviors the way other people watch clocks. Dr. Alana Ruiz covers medical and behavioral topics. She is magnetic and direct, a scientist with a soft voice who talks to dogs like they understand her and to people like they should learn how. Cole Merritt handles field calls. He does not hate dogs. He hates being surprised by them. He carries a scar on his forearm and a rule book in his head, and both have kept him standing. The town itself carries habits. Some folks tip Patrice well and ask about Zadie. Others wave her off with a hurry-up gesture and ask for the manager instead. At school, Zadie raises her hand and watches it float in the air while the teacher calls on louder voices. She tracks the room the way she tracks a melody, counting beats until it is her turn or until the bell rings and the chance vanishes. This is the ground the story grows from. A mother who works, a child who listens, a shelter running on budgets and best guesses, and a dog whose fear sounds like thunder rolling over sheet metal. The night they all meet, Harborview is ordinary. The ordinary is what makes the shock matter. At Mockingbird Elementary, the morning announcements buzz through the speakers, and the class settles into math. Zadie lifts her hand for the first problem, elbow tucked, pencil straight, and eyes steady. The teacher scans the room and calls on a louder voice. It happens again for reading and again for science. By lunch, Zadie is counting her breaths without thinking. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. A quiet rhythm her grandma taught her for when your heartbeat feels like a drum no one else hears. She is not angry. She is careful. Being careful is how you walk through a door that sticks without slamming it. On the bus, 2 girls whisper across the aisle and tilt their phones. They do not use the meanest words. They use smaller ones that sting longer. Why is she always here? Does she live at the diner? The driver calls for quiet, and the whispers slip under the seat like a draft. Zadie tucks her tray closer and keeps her eyes on the window, on the cranes over the harbor, tracing slow circles against the sky. She has learned that disrespect has a tone as distinct as a siren. Once you recognize it, you do not mistake it again. At the Baylight Diner, Patrice lifts coffee pots and smiles through the dinner rush. A man in a blazer says "sweetheart" instead of Patrice and waves 2 fingers for a refill without looking up. Another customer insists on speaking to the manager, who stands 3 feet away but happens to be a white woman wearing the same black apron as Patrice. The manager does what she can. She backs Patrice in front of the table and says she is the one who can help you. The man apologizes to the manager without turning to Patrice. If you watched the scene without sound, you would still see it. The apology is misaddressed. Zadie finishes homework in the back booth and listens to the restaurant like a radio. Plates, forks, the hiss of the grill, the low rumble of a game on TV. Between those sounds lives a different frequency, the one where service workers carry other people's impatience as if it is part of the uniform. When a couple leaves no tip and a note that says, "faster next time," Patrice folds the slip in half and taps it twice against the table to flatten the hurt. She calls Zadie over and splits a burger with her, the way they do when the night runs long. These are the cuts no one stitches, the ones you bandage with composure and rhythm and the choice to keep showing up. Zadie learns that invisibility is not the same as silence. She is practicing a voice that will not need to shout to be heard. At home over the diner, Zadie plugs a scuffed thumb drive into the old laptop her grandma left behind. The files are plain and unlabeled, grainy videos of working dogs and patient hands. A woman off camera speaks in a calm, low register. Never rush. Lead with your breath. Mark the behavior you want, not the fear you see. Commands float through the speakers like notes. Sits, plots, blibe, ouse, here. The handler never stares straight on. She angles her body, softens her eyes, and lets the dog choose to meet her halfway. Zadie copies what she sees. She sets the kitchen metronome to 60 beats a minute and matches it with the tap of her finger on the dented tray. Ta, ta. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and out for 6. Her posture is a triangle. One shoulder slightly forward, weight centered, hands quiet. Words are only part of the signal. The rest is pattern. With permission from Mr. Handley down the hall, she practices on Jax, a mellow rescue with a sweet tooth for liver treats. She starts at a distance, 10 feet, then 8, always giving him the choice to step closer. Sits lands when her tone drops and the tray beat stays steady. Plots follows after a pause, not stacked too fast. If he flinches at hallway noise, she resets by breathing with him, not over him, letting the tension wash out like a tide. She learns timing is the real language. Reward too early and you mark the flinch. Reward a half-second later, and you mark the settle. Across the street, Jared agrees to a trial with Ash under strict rules. 12 feet minimum, barrier in place. Sessions are capped at 15 minutes with Dr. Ruiz observing and Cole working the perimeter. Zadie arrives with the tray, a pocket metronome app, and a small towel that smells faintly of fryer oil and dish soap from the diner, a scent string back to calm. She does not speak first. She lets the beat introduce her. Ash surges, then stalls, head up, eyes flashing to the roofline where cranes cut the sky. Zadie turns it half step, lowers her chin, and lets the seconds stretch. When his breath dips, she says, "Sits," in that soft, certain way the videos taught her. Not a shout, not a plea, a direction with a landing place. He does not sit, not yet, but he blinks and licks his nose, a small surrender that matters. On day 3, the slam against the gate shortens by a breath. On day 5, the growl thins into a rumble, then quiet. Each small change gets a quiet yes and a single treat slid along the floor, never thrown. The pattern is becoming a bridge, and Zadie is learning how to walk it without shaking it apart. The meeting happens in the break room with a wall clock that ticks too loud. Jared reads from a printed memo while Dr. Ruiz traces the outline on a legal pad. Effective immediately, the county has 96 hours to determine if Ash is manageable for transfer. Manageable is not a feeling. It is a checklist. He must accept a basket muzzle for 30 clean seconds. He must walk on a leash for 40 feet to the transport van with no lunging, no mouth on the leash, and no panic spin. The whole sequence must be recorded on video with 2 signatures, the vet and the director. If any box is left blank, euthanasia becomes mandatory. No extensions without a vote that will not come. Cole stands with his arms folded, a bandage peeking from his sleeve. He says procedures exist because hope gets people hurt. He wants the perimeter tight and the sessions short. 15 minutes, twice a day, barrier up, no exceptions. He keeps his voice even, but the fear lives just under the evenness. Outside, word spreads. Some neighbors call the shelter to say thank you. Others post that the kid is dragging this out. Patrice hears both sides between refills and keeps moving. Zadie nods like a junior doctor. Tech. Dr. Ruiz gives her a plan in 3 phases. Phase 1, muzzle as an object in the room, presented on a pole so hands never cross the line. Reward any look that is not a flinch. Phase 2, muzzle near the gate with calm breath synced to a 60-beat tap so the pulse in the room does not race ahead of the dog. Phase 3, leash clipped through the fence and a slow walk along the quarantine corridor to the back door, then the van staged 30 feet away. The first session under the new rules starts at 4:15. A foghorn from the bay lifts and settles over the yard like a low ceiling. Ash scans up, eyes fixed on the crane cables, the sound coming from above. Zadie angles her shoulders and taps the tray in a steady pattern. The breath comes back down. The muzzle sits on the concrete like a harmless tool. He sniffs and steps back. It is not a win, but it is not a loss. By nightfall, the clock says 92 hours remain. Jared locks the side gate. Patrice walks Zadie to the bus stop and squeezes her hand once. Rules are the frame, baby, she says. You are the rhythm inside it. The rain shows up before dawn, a thin gray sheet that makes Harborview sound smaller. In the clinic office, the coffee is burnt and the fluorescent light buzzes. Cole stands by the window and stares at the run where Ash sleeps with one eye open. He has not said much since the memo. Now he speaks like someone walking on a narrow beam. I had a call 5 years ago, he says to Dr. Ruiz without looking at her. Backyard, chain link, a dog the owner swore was fine. Sweet with the kids. Just scared of men. The gate stuck. I pushed my shoulder into it, and the latch gave all at once. The dog hit me before my boots cleared the threshold. It was not a bite, it was a tangle. I could not find my feet. I remember gravel in my mouth, and a sound like a rope tearing. He lifts his forearm. The scar is pale and thick, a long river where fur and teeth once met skin. 72 stitches, nerve damage for a year. I came back anyway. The procedure keeps me from walking into that again. Alana sets the coffee down. Procedure helps, she says, but fear writes rules too. When fear writes all of them, we stop seeing the animal in front of us and start seeing a reel that never ends. Cole keeps his jaw tight. You want a reel, he says? That kid is 10. The margin for error is 0. I will not be the adult who let a child get hurt because we wanted a good story. In the hallway, Zadie pretends to study the hand sanitizer poster. She has heard every word. She does not feel accused. She hears a map. People are not one thing. They are a stack of moments. Some you can see, and some you cannot. She thinks about how her mom folds notes that should hurt and makes them flat, and how dogs choose when to blink, and how both are a kind of survival. Jared steps in with a clipboard and a weather report. A storm line is moving in after lunch, he says. Wind gusts, possible thunder. We keep sessions short and end early if it cracks. We do not push a dog already wired to look up every time the sky speaks. Cole nods once. He still wants the muzzle on a pole and a hard stop at 15 minutes. Zadie says nothing. She adjusts her metronome app to stay steady even if thunder rolls. Fear writes rules. Rhythm writes room inside them. The storm arrives like a switch flipped. One moment the yard is just wet and gray. The next, a sheet of wind slaps the chain link and turns the flag on the pole into a whip. In quarantine, Ash lifts his head and freezes. The first crack of thunder does not roll. It detonates overhead, a hard bang that rattles the vents. The sound is not within his body. It is artillery. He surges. The old latch on the inner gate has been bent and hammered straight too many times. He hits it once and the metal groans. He hits it twice and the bolt rides up a fraction. On the third strike, the hinge throws a spark and the gate kicks open into the aisle. Alarms chirp. A mop bucket tips and clatters down the hall like shrapnel. By the time Jared reaches the door, Ash is a gray blur sliding around the corner, claws scraping tile, eyes up, scanning the ceiling like the threat will drop from it. Outside, the yard gate holds, but the side service door into the loading bay is ajar for a delivery. Wind punches it wide. Ash darts for the darkest line of sight, under the overhang, past stacked food bags, and out into the open lane that leads toward the docks. Rain needles the concrete. A crane horn bleats, short and sharp, and he flinches hard left toward the maze of container rows. Cole is already moving, radio to his mouth, voice clipped. Yard breach. The subject is heading east between containers 3 and 6. Do not engage without a line of sight. Do not run him blind. Dr. Ruiz grabs a slip lead and a basket muzzle, breathing tight but steady. Jared keys the building lock and tells intake to hold all doors closed. He looks at Zadie and thinks about saying, "Stay inside." He does not. He says, "You stay with me, and you do not cross the tape unless I tell you." The docks amplify weather. Every sheet of metal becomes a drum. Every cable hums. Ash threads a zigzag, ears pinned, nose high. He is not chasing. He is fleeing, a sky that will not stop speaking. A group of teens sheltering under the ferry awning film him and laugh when he skids on a slicked patch. One of them points at Zadie when she and Jared appear at the corner. "There goes the little hero. Fix your monster." Zadie does not answer. She uses the bulk of the containers as windbreaks and keeps her tray tucked like a shield at her ribs. She can feel Ash before she sees him, the way the sound narrows and then opens. Thunder pops again and echoes down the alley of steel. He bolts toward a gap that dead ends at the pier fence. It is a trap made of panic and angles. Jared holds an arm out to stop her. Zadie taps once on the tray, sets her metronome in her head, and steps into the mouth of the alley as the rain lifts into a white haze. Thunder shivers down the steel canyon and hangs there, a long metallic note. Ash is pinned at the far end, a wedge of chain link and wet concrete cutting off his escape. He is sideways to them, head tilted up, eyes raking the sky like the danger is suspended from a hook they cannot see. Jared lowers his palm to keep Zadie behind his line. Cole radios for a unit to block the pier gate. Dr. Ruiz jogs up, soaked, a handheld reader in one fist and her phone in the other. "I pulled the intake chip again," she says, breathing hard. "It is not a regular pet registry. It pinged a contractor block. Then I hit a dead wall. No owner of record, no vet on file, just a code string." She turns the screen so Jared can see through the rain. MPC-442. "What does that even mean?" Cole says. "Multi-purpose canine," Dr. Ruiz answers. "The military program then spun out to private contracts. Dogs trained to work explosives, tracking, and protection." She swallows. "This is not a backyard stray. Somebody erased his past and called him dangerous." Zadie stares at the numbers like they are a song she almost knows. Her mind jumps to the old conscripts. Videos on the thumb drive. To a gray and white shepherd in a dusty yard, pacing the fence without touching it, head high, scanning above, not at the handler. She can see the small notch in the left ear where frostbite or a fight took a bite years ago. Ash has the same half-moon missing. In the clip, the handler never shouts. She taps a metal pan in fours and speaks in low German. The dog settles like a switch set to calm. "That is why he keeps looking up," Zadie says softly, more to herself than to the adults. "He is listening for sky. He learned that the roof is where the hurt comes from." Another thunder pop bounces off the containers. Ash flinches but does not slam the fence. His eyes cut to the dented tray at Zadie's hip as if the tray is the only still thing in a moving world. "The officer who signed his surrender used the name Ash," Jared says, frowning. "No paperwork, just a threat to dump him. If this code is real, that man did not surrender a pet. He abandoned a veteran." Cole clenches his jaw and looks from the scar on his own arm to the dog at the fence. "I do not like conspiracies," he mutters, "but I like puzzles with missing pieces even less. If the past is wiped, the behavior is all we have." Dr. Ruiz nods. Behavior and the person he is choosing to believe. She glances at Zadie. If MPC 442 remembers German and a steady beat, then that is the bridge. Use it. Bring him across. Wind pushes spray through the gap like breath from a giant lung. The pier boards are slick, the chain link behind Ash rattling in tiny bursts as he shifts his weight and tests the corner. He is boxed by angles that make sense to panic and no sense to calm. Jared anchors a shoulder against the container edge and gives Zadie a single nod. Cole plants himself 10 yards back, taser holstered, hands open, eyes locked on the line between child and dog. Dr. Ruiz lays the basket muzzle on a painter's pole, cape wrapped thick around the end, and whispers one reminder: slow is fast. Zadie steps into the alley as if she is stepping onto a church aisle. She angles her body 30 degrees, turns her face soft, and slides the dented tray to her hip like a shield. The beat starts at her fingertip. Ta, 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 60 a minute. Her breathing matches it, 4 in, 4 held, and 6 out, turning the air between them into a steady flow. She does not give a speech, she gives a pattern. Ash tracks the tray first, then her shoulders, then the small tilt of her head away from his eyes. When his chest loosens a hair, she drops a single word into the space. Sits. Not loud, not timid, certain. The sound lands like a post in wet ground. His hips hover, the choice visible. Another thunder grumble runs the length of the steel. Zadie keeps the beat exactly the same. Ruhig, she says, and the second word threads with the first. Calm. He does not sit all the way. He does something better. He exhales and lets his ears slide forward a finger's width. The fight is not gone, but it is no longer the only thing in the room. Zadie edges a half-step closer and lowers the pole with the muzzle until the basket is level with his nose. She does not push. She lets it be there, neutral and boring, the way a doorknob is boring until a hand turns it. Ash flares his nostrils, sniffing plastic and rain and a ghost of fryer oil from the towel tied to the handle. Good, Zadie says, in English now, because praise is a language of its own. She brings the basket away, counts 3 beats, and brings it back. On the 4th pass, he puts his nose into the cup an inch, then 2. The alley seems quiet, to lean toward them. "Do it," someone breathes, and Jared hushes the air with a palm. Zadie tilts the tray, taps once, and lets the basket slide over Ash's muzzle in a single patient arc. Strap clipped, no flinch. The world does not explode. She rests the pole, threads a slip lead through the fence, and says the last word like a promise. Here. The dog shifts weight to the front and takes one deliberate step toward her, then another, until the leash goes slack and the storm noise feels far away. The sky tightens again without warning. A tour boat eases away from the dock, and a safety flare pops with a hiss, then a hard crack as it bounces off a metal stanchion and skitters under the pier. The sound ricochets up through boards and beams. Ash jolts like he has been lifted by a wire. The leash goes taut, front paws skating, body twisting into a panic spin that wants to unwind the last 5 minutes. The basket muzzle rattles. Zadie drops low, the tray angling between them like a small shield. Voice steady even as the wind changes direction. "Easy," she says. "Breathe on the beat. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out." The leash stays slack in her hands because she refuses to pull against fear. Pulling teaches the wrong lesson. She hums a worn church tune her grandma used to sing while folding laundry, a melody with steps you can climb even when the house shakes. The note sits right on 60, firm as a handrail. Cole steps forward from 10 yards, taser up now, red dot bright against wet wood. His voice is flat and loud and meant to cut through everything else. "Back up, Zadie. I have it." His forearm remembers gravel and teeth and the old fight he lost in a stranger's yard. His eyes do not leave the line where the child and the dog meet. Fear writes a script in his head. Hesitation hurts people. Act. Jared plants himself between them. Not grand, just deliberate. "Not across the shot," Cole says, jaw locked. "I cannot risk a miss." Jared does not move. "You cannot risk a story we do not have to write," he answers, quiet enough that only Cole hears. "Look at the leash. It is slack. Look at the ears. They are forward, not back. This is a black hole moment, and we choose what falls in." The flare hisses out at last. The echo dies a breath at a time. Zadie keeps humming. Ash stands in the center of his choices, chest pumping, head still tipping to the roofline because the roof once betrayed him. The red dot on the boards trembles, then steadies, then slides down as Cole lowers the taser to his thigh. He exhales like a tire losing just enough air to ride better. "Your lane, kid," he says, not unkind. Zadie nods once, steps a half-pace sideways to open the path, and gives the word that turns a hallway back into a hallway. "Here." The dog takes 1 step, then 2, and the line between fear and duty becomes a narrow bridge they decide to share. Dr. Ruiz lifts her phone again and hits record. The storm does not stop. It simply moves down the coast, and the space it leaves is just wide enough to walk through. They move like a small parade no one planned. Zadie in front, shoulders angled, tray tucked at her hip. Ash beside her, basket muzzle on, leash loose, head turning but feet steady. Dr. Ruiz walks backward with her phone up, framing the shot wide enough to show the leash slack and the path clear. Jared paces on the outside edge, a quiet guardrail in a windbreaker. Cole hangs back 10 yards, hands empty now, eyes scanning the corners for surprises the way you scan for potholes after a storm. The route from the pier mouth to the transport van measures 40 feet on the nose. Dr. Ruiz marked it in chalk before the weather turned, 2 rough dashes on wet concrete that look like the start and finish of a schoolyard race. Between them are puddles that mirror a torn sky, a stack of bait buckets, a busted pallet, and the white hush that comes after noise leaves. Zadie keeps the beat in her breath and in the soft tap of a fingertip against the tray. Ta-ta, ta-ta, the metronome you can carry anywhere. At the 12-foot mark, a gull strafes low and yells a sound that could be a laugh if you do not know birds. Ash flinches, then blinks, then resets toward her shoulder. Good, Zadie says. Not sweet, just true. At 26 feet, the wind noses a trash bag and startles it into a plastic ghost. Ash watches it go like a weird parade float and chooses not to follow. Good. At 38 feet, the van door yawns open and the space inside looks like a mouth. Zadie pauses for a breath and hums one clean note. The leash stays slack. Jared unlatches the ramp and they step up together. 1, 2. Dr. Ruiz captures the final angle as Ash turns, settles his weight, and stands without pawing, without spinning, and without trying to back out. 30 seconds on the muzzle tick past. She timestamps the video and nods, the kind of nod that means a box just filled itself honestly. By the time the door closes, neighbors have gathered in a loose ring. Some who shouted earlier bow their heads a little. One older woman touches Zadie's sleeve and says, "Thank you for reminding me what patience looks like." Patrice jogs up from the diner, breathless, eyes bright. She does not speak first. She wraps her daughter in a hug that says all of it. Jared signs the transfer form. Dr. Ruiz signs the video log. Cole signs the incident report and writes one extra sentence in the margin. Managed by a steady child with a steady beat. 30 days later, Harborview feels wider. The sea air still smells like salt and diesel, but some edges have softened. At the county center, a small Saturday group gathers under a hand-painted sign that reads Rhythm and Commands. Jared brings coffee in a dented thermos. Dr. Ruiz stacks basket muzzles like tools, not punishments. Cole sets cones and watches the fence line with a calmer jaw. Patrice signs people in between dinner shifts, proud and tired in the best way. And Zadie stands in a chalked square with her tray and her metronome app, showing other kids how to breathe on the beat and watch ears, eyes, and shoulders for the story a dog is telling. News from the rescue comes in clips. Ash, now listed as MPC 442 Ash, learns to rest in a quiet kennel with a roof that does not slam. He walks past ladders without looking up. He takes treats through the basket like a gentleman and sleeps with his nose on a blanket that smells faintly of fryer oil and dish soap. When the transport team sends a photo of him sprawled in the sun, one ear tipped just so, Zadie prints it and tapes it to the fridge. She hums the old church tune while she does her homework. This is where the lessons land. Before you judge, read the body in front of you. Ears forward does not mean attack. It can mean I am trying. Breath is a tool you carry in every room. 4 in, 4 hold, and 6 out can make space where there was none. A muzzle is safety equipment, not shame. Procedure is a frame. Human judgment and patience paint the picture inside it. And invisibility is not the same as silence. You can be unseen and still choose to speak with skill, with steadiness, with a beat that does not break. If this chapter moved you, add your own story below. Tell us where you learned to keep breathing when the room got loud. Share this with someone who needs proof that patience changes outcomes. Tap subscribe and stay close. Next time, we will visit Ash at the rescue and watch Zadie's class help a shy hound find his voice. The work continues, one steady beat at a time.